Yay, oh yay, oh yay. Silence is commanded by this honorable commission. All those having business, draw near.
Thank you, and may you bow your heads in prayer with me. Our Father who art in heaven, we come with bowed heads and humble hearts. We come before thee, O God, seeking that wisdom, that knowledge, but most of all, the understanding and that guidance as we go through the deliberations here that will affect Chatham County and all its citizens. Bless us, O Lord, with the knowledge and the wisdom and the understanding from on high, that we may do the right thing, making the right decisions as we go forward to make everybody's lives in Chatham County much better. These and all other blessings we ask in Jesus' precious name. Amen. Amen. Join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. You may be seated. Roll call.
Chester A. Ellis, Chairman.
Present.
Helen L. Stone, District 1, Vice Chairman.
Present.
Kenneth A. Adams, District 8, Chairman Pro Tem. Jean Brown Rivers, District 2. Bobby Lockett, District 3.
Present.
Patrick K. Farrell, District 4.
Here.
Tanya Milton, District 5.
Present.
Aaron Whiteley, District 6.
Susie.
Here.
Dean Kicklider, District 7.
All right, now, do we, this is for the attorney. In this special call meeting, do we have to, those, commissioners who can't be here, do we have to excuse them? Can we excuse them, or we? All right. Right, well, we got a quorum, but I just wanted the rest of them to know that Commissioner Adams is not here due to illness, okay? That's for your information. Having said that, let me read the opening statement that we are supposed to this special call meeting that involved the first public hearing as required by the state of Georgia on the county's 2023 millage levy, all right? Ladies and gentlemen, this hearing is being held in compliance with state law. The Chatham County Board of Commissioners have announced publicly its intention to increase the property taxes it will levy this year by 8.41% over the rollback millage rate for the general maintenance and operation tax, by 5.90% over the rollback rate for the special service district tax, and by a 7.65% over the rollback millage rate for the Chatham Area Transit Authority. This gives the Board of Commissioners the option of adopting the millage rate recommended to balance the proposed budget. The purpose of this hearing is to provide members of the public the opportunity to comment. The advertised millage rate for the general fund is 10.518 mills, which is 0.816 mills higher than the calculated rollback millage rate of 9.702. The advertised millage rate for the Special Service District Fund is 4.502 mills, which is 0.251 mills higher than the calculated rollback millage of 4.251. The advertised millage rate for the Chatham Area Transit Authority is 1.056 mills, which is 0.075 mills higher than the calculated rollback millage rate of 0.981. A list is provided at the front of the room for you for you to record your name and address, as well as the group or organization you represent, if any. This will allow us to document the public input was solicited. We ask that you be brief and concise in your remarks, since there may be a number of people that may wish to speak. We want everyone to have an equal chance to be heard. Having read that, may I have a motion from a member of the commission for the opening of public hearing? May I have a second?
I second.
Properly motion and second that we open the public hearing. Are you ready for the question? Please cast your votes. Okay, having done that, Mr. Manager, have we provided the list? Do we have a list, or is there one provided?
There's one provided, but no one signed up, Mr. Chairman.
All right, no one signed up. Okay. Let me say to the general public as well, the statement that was read, all right, is required by law, but it's the intention of this commission not to increase the millage rate. The millage rate of 10.518 is the same millage rate that we're operating now for the general fund, and for the special service district, the millage rate is 4.502, which is the same that we're operating under now. Having said that, and we don't have anyone that wants to speak, Mr. Manager?
No, sir.
None?
No one signed up to speak.
All right, may I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Properly motion and second that the public, meeting be closed. Are you ready for the question? Please cast your votes. All right, all votes are in. All right, Mr. Manager, we have some discussion items on the agenda.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman and Board, I'll call your attention to the summary of proposed budget changes, and you should have them at your desk there. And I want to kind of go through those. After we had our public hearing on the budget, our workshop, the board asked staff to go back and based on the testimony, go back and consider some of the changes, and we have those there before you. It's helpful to note that the changes are to the budget that was, the draft budget that was sent out. That was before we had confirmation of our digest growth. So these changes reflect the changes that we're recommending after we have our digest growth. Just to remind the board, we had over 13% growth in the M&O. We put some things in place to recognize the requests that were made from some of the departments. And I'll go through that list and answer any questions that you may have. First, we recognize the additional revenue of $15.7 million. We reduced the indirect cost allocation for the SSD, which is $3.7 million. We provided a 5% cost of living inflation adjustment, and that's $3.6 million. That's for the employees in the M&O. In the original budget, we had a cost of living for public safety, but we did not put anything in there for general employees. So the 5% will help us with recruitment and retention, so that's included in the budget. We added another position that'll be attached to the county manager's office. It's an administrative assistant position. That's going to help us with inquiries on fire fee and other duties that we've taken on. We've increased the district attorney's budget to $206,000, and that's to recognize the request that the district attorney made to have her salary and wages line item to remain flat. So it's not an additional above her current budget, but it just keeps it flat year over year. So that will help her with her recruitment efforts. In the juvenile court budget, we added funding to take a part-time staff attorney to full-time. We also added funds to increase the fourth judge by additional 10 hours per week, and that's $48,000. In the probate court, and also they did ask for a mental health clinician, and going back with staff, that is included in the budget. So the additional mental health clinician is already included in the budget.
Good.
Probate court, taking a deputy court clerk from part-time to full-time, and that's $36,100. In the coroner's office, he requested an additional part-time deputy coroner, and that with a car allowance, a mileage reimbursement to the budget. and both of those equate to $15,000. We added additional funding to the Youth Commission budget of $18,500, and that takes them back to the pre-COVID numbers. We transferred $4 million into CIP for capital reserve, and that's to note that we're starting on the trial court building. We're gonna be moving in there. Hopefully we're gonna start on our EOC coming up before the end of the year. So we got $4 million into CIP. We increased our contingency by $3.8 million, and those are the main changes to the proposed M&O budget. We did also go back in our blueprint fund. We did have some additional funding there, and because we had a contingency in our blueprint. Based on the discussion with the board, we increased Brightside to not to exceed 50,000, Greenbrier not to exceed 50, and Theros Place 18,750. The other, the mentoring program, we've got money there, but they've got to get their 501c3, they've got to get their business plan. There's several hurdles that he has to get over to qualify for county funding. So if he gets that, then we'll revisit that issue at that time. Any questions on the M&O budget adjustments?
All right, let me get, Commissioner Stone has one. Anybody else? All right, let's go, Commissioner Stone.
Just a quick question. I know that we're working on this juvenile crisis center. And I know that we're trying to get some state and
Yes,
possibly some federal money, but if we don't, is there any money, and I would think that possibly if there's anything left in the ARPA funding, that could qualify? Is there anything that we could put towards that?
We're gonna look at that. Ms. Jennings is working diligently on that.
I know
You know,
she-
that's gonna be, one of the high priority items. But let us get back with you on that. And
I understand. I just wanted to put it up there for consideration. I understand that I'm not expecting you to come up with a number or a way to do it, but certainly something that we need to think about going forward, especially after the report from the juvenile court judges. Thank you.
Now, the other caveat with this budget, we've had discussions with our fire service provider, and we're gonna need some additional, while the final number hadn't been determined, we're gonna need some additional wiggle room, I would say, to be able to fund that. So that's gonna impact the M&O and SSD budget. So we'll probably be coming back to you at a subsequent meeting to address that. So I just want to put that out there because it will affect both budgets.
I have one other question. I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman. The drainage.
Yes, ma'am. We're continuing to work on that. We've got some money in ARPA for some of those projects, and we'll be meeting with staff within the next couple of weeks to revisit a couple of those items. So engineering has provided a draft status report to you, and we've got some other issues that we're working on. So we will provide an additional update to you.
Okay, I mean, it would seem to me a priority instantly for the low-lying areas of Burnside of these tidal gates and, the replacement of the ones that are covered with barnacles and that are not functioning. So,
Mr. Wright, I had a discussion with him yesterday. Staff is going to do an emergency purchase to replace a couple of those, understanding that there's a pretty long lead time for those items. So we'll get your status on when we think we'll get those in and get those replaced.
what kind of lead time?
That's what I'm waiting on, to find.
Because I'm really concerned about that. I mean, you were on the island with me the other day, and I'm just being told that these are not functioning properly, and salt water is coming all through those drainage ditches, which then at high tide does not allow rainwater to go anywhere, so.
I should have a ETA on you for you next week. We'll know how long it's gonna take us to get them in.
Because this is the season when it gets dangerous.
In the
Thank you.
Okay. In the SAD fund, We're recognizing the growth with the additional property tax of $1.8 million. We reduced the indirect cost allocation by the $3.754 million. We added the cost of living adjustment for the SSD employees, and that's a little over $500,000. We've got a $1.4 million transfer out to the fire fund, and we increased the contingency by 3.5, almost $3.6 million. And those revisions to the SSD budget brings it up to $50,264,000. In the fire district fund, we've increased revenues to the fire district fund of $1.46 million. We did not, and we've got another presentation on the fire fee, which staff will be giving to you in a few minutes. But we thought it was just prudent till we get our bracket squared away, till we get leveled out. We did not increase. Right now, we're not recommending an additional increase on the fees for the upcoming fiscal year. So the fees will stay the same as they were, but it's going to depend on how we do the brackets. Some individuals may see an increase, some may see a decrease. So we're keeping that level for the current fiscal year. If this board approves, we're going to purchase a fire engine, and the current CES budget, contract budget, we got into, and that we've discussed with them is $14.76 million currently. Now, there's some discussions about whether we need to change that, go up, and we'll be having those discussions with this board and folks from CES over the next week. So those are the additions to the budget that were made after we sent the initial budget out. Any questions, any board members?
Go back to Mr. All right, let's go to Commissioner Lockett.
Yes.
Put your mic on.
Yes, Mr. Manager, where will this fire engine be housed?
It'll be, right now, Chatham County will take possession of it, we'll title it, and then we'll have an agreement with CES that they will lease it from us, and it'll be housed over at one of their fire stations.
We don't know which one, though.
Yeah.
They haven't said which one.
Yes.
Yeah.
You answered, thank you.
I think.
All right, Commissioner Stone.
You know, in sitting through the session yesterday with the representatives from Chatham Fire, I just had a question, and maybe this is not a fair analysis, but is there a way we can sort of analyze what we're paying for our police department versus what they're requesting? I mean, another number of employees, benefits, that kind of thing. I'm just curious, would see how they line up in the event that at some point in time, the county does look at running a fire department. I'm just kind of curious to know what a comparison, and I don't mean, you know, actual dollars right down to the penny, but just a sort of a large overview of a comparison for the number. It seems to me from the discussion yesterday, there's somewhere similar in the number of employees, and certainly the equipment and what it takes to run a fire department. But, you know, we've been pretty successful, very successful, with our endeavors with our police department, and I'm just curious to know how that would parallel with what we could do for fire.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. And I will say, in some of my discussions with CES, and you know, we definitely could provide that comparison for you. But unlike the police demerger, we're a little bit handicapped that we don't own the equipment and facilities and that kind of thing. And this board is going to have to make a decision. I was talking with Ms. Kramer this morning, and we both agree that we've got some tough decisions coming up. for the long term of this community. So we'll be having those discussions, but we can provide those comparisons for you. I will say that running a fire department is a expensive endeavor. We've been working with ICMA to look at some scenarios, and fire departments are labor intensive.
I understand.
The equipment is expensive. The insurance on firefighters is expensive. So we've taken all that into consideration, and we will provide some of that information to you.
I understand, but I also would, and I know this has been discussed, this is not a new and bright idea, but it would seem to me that if we have to continue to help with them financially, that we should be acquiring bit by bit some of the assets so that going forward, we position ourselves in a better place than we are at this particular moment.
Yeah.
But-
We don't think, and this is just staff looking at it, we don't think the current structure is sustainable over a long term. So this board is going to have to determine, where we go in the future.
Well, I just think we need to be prepared, and I think that if they are looking to us to, financially help them, then, and we're gonna be partners in this, then we should have a piece of the pie, in which that means some of their assets. Based on the last few years and the issues that they've had, I don't want to throw good money against bad money. I want to have something in return, some type of collateral, to show the taxpayers for what we're doing.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
And one of the things that I've asked the staff to do, asked the manager to do, is once, what is ICS that we're working with, huh?
ICMA.
ICMA, okay. I think it's prudent upon us that we bring them in to do a workshop because they're experts in this field, all right? So we can schedule workshops so that they can bring the information that they're sharing with and the comparison that they're doing somewhere down the line. Now, I'm not talking about that's not gonna happen tomorrow and it's not gonna happen next week, but somewhere down the line, once we get the information in, okay, and we understand where we are with this whole situation, then let them come in and tell you what they think based upon our present situation, what best scenario is, and educate all of us on. 'Cause
Absolutely.
I know zip about running the fire department, all right? And I think everybody up here is just like that. I don't think anybody in staff, no, we may have one person who may know, because he's done that before, but as far as that's concerned, all of us walking blind. So we're going to need folks to come in and help us get through what we're going through, and things are being thrown at us now, which makes you shake your head and scratch your head as well, because we don't know where this thing going. We don't know how it's coming out, but we do need to get to a point where when it's time for us to make those tough decisions, and you heard the manager say, we're gonna have to make some tough decisions, all right? We'll be educated enough to make those kind of decisions and make it for the benefit, because as I said yesterday in the meetings, and as I said earlier, if public safety becomes our charge, all right, keeping people safe is our charge, and we cannot drop the ball, because if we drop the ball, we may lose somebody's life. And if one is too many, all right, almost one is too many. So therefore, we're gonna need those expertise, those experts in here to give us their expertise on what's going on,
I agree,
okay?
100%.
All right, anything else? Get
If
the
there are no
last
other
one.
questions from the board,
All right, go to CPI,
yes.
CIP,
Excuse
I'm
me, I
sorry.
have one
Sure.
correction, I guess. It's the mileage reimbursement number 9, that should be 5,000, not 15,000.
Yeah,
Okay, let's take the one off.
yeah.
Take the one off.
It's 5,000.
We were doing late.
Number 9 on the front page.
We messed that up.
On the front page, number 9. Take the one off. Sure, go.
All right, so, When we talk about, well, we're about to go over the CIP, right?
Okay.
All right, and is Scottsdale included in any of that?
Yeah, I think Scottsdale is included in the current budget.
To some degree?
To some degree, yes. And once we get all the plans, done and everything, then we'll identify the funding for Stell Park, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. If you will look at the additions, revisions to the CIP fund, we did an increase from the general fund of $4 million, and we increased the expenditures for the EOC by $4 million, increased expenditures for the fire truck of $500,000. We've got a $500,000 line item for the Vision 2033 plan that we're working on with the city, CETA. It's a community-wide needs assessment and blueprint that'll incorporate the region as a whole. So we're working on that, and we'll bring some additional information back to you because you will have to approve that contract. And we decreased the contingency in the CIP fund by $1 million. So those are the changes to the CIP fund. Any questions?
All right, no questions? Sure, go.
When are we expecting to break ground on the EOC?
We're waiting on some additional grant funds that we should hear something back by October. And we're going to finalize the plans, knowing that we may have to scale back on some of our wants and phase it in. But I'm hoping that sometime latter part of this year, the first of next year, to break ground on it.
All right, thank you.
Anything else? All right, having none, I think what's on the agenda now is that we need to go to executive session?
No, sir, we've got the next one
Workshop?
is the fire fee
The
modeling.
budget workshop?
No, that was.
Okay, the model list.
Yes.
Okay.
And I'm going to ask Ms. Kramer and Mr. Cantrell to come to we prepared a slide presentation for you, and what we've done is we took into consideration all of the requests that the board has made when we were talking about the fire fee, and we're going to present those to you because we're going to have to at least adopt one model. We need to adopt one model. So we want to go over that and let the board look at it. And I would request that we're going to have to adopt a model on the 23rd meeting. So you'll have some time to think about it. But staff I think we've taken into consideration all the requests that individual commissioners have made, and we put this in a PowerPoint, and we're going to go over it, and then hopefully we can come to some resolution as to what our fee structure is going to look like going forward. So, Alan.
Okay,
Okay.
good morning.
I was asked by Linda and Michael to put this together. The first slide you're going to see on there, I believe they provided this to you previously as
Yes.
well. That's the current model that we're currently operating under. It's 11 square foot categories, including the fee amount right in the middle, and then how many properties are actually in that grouping and the total dollar amount. They're invoiced based on their square foot brackets, including a $100 land fee or $50 if it's a discounted property, which is the schools and, Yep.
Does this include commercial properties? Because that was a concern before, was that we weren't including or making certain that people with commercial properties were being assessed properly.
This did include commercial, but this did have a cap, because this is what we currently have, and then we'll show you what we're going to.
Okay.
Yep, all properties were included based on the fire fee district. If they're not covered by any other service in Chatham County, they are included in this district. Just some of the rate model assumptions for the next few pages. We have 7 new models just to present to you today. We have a $13.5 million operating budget is what's been input at this point. The we're using the prior year square footage after adjustments and corrections that were made during the appeal period. If someone were to come in and say that there was a retention pond that's included, we've taken those out, so those are not included in these models. So any corrections that happened last year are taken into account and taken off and corrected here. For each model, there's an impact table or a fee change table that's included between the FY23 model, so last year's model, and this model, just to give you some comparison if there's an increase or decrease in what dollar amount you'll see. For each model, or the cap for higher square foot models is considered, so you'll see that continually grow as we go through this presentation. Here's the 7 different models we have prepared for you. The originals, we have the original rate structure from last year with the FY24 properties with an updated value with our $13.5 million budget. Then we have the 18 and 27 bracket models, which expand out some of the categories, and we'll go through that. The cost per square foot model that was requested, which is 0.0957 cents per square foot. And then we tried to do the square footage models with the brackets, trying to use that average of 0.0957 cents per square foot. And there is a comparative model at the very end of the presentation. Under the current model that's updated, there was only one change that would have to happen to this to get us to that $13.5 million budget. As you can see at the very bottom, there's a $750 increase to that category 11, which is the highest properties in the county. That's from 50,000 square feet plus. So that's the only change. And then there is a $100 land fee that's included in that. And you'll see those at the bottom. That's the $3.208 million.
So that means the fee on the middle of the chart does not include the land, just to be.
Yep, that's correct. All the fees on the charts are just the square footage fee only. They do not include the land fees. Those are just summed at the bottom so we can get to the values as needed. Okay. Here's your impact chart. With this model, 32,631 properties would see no change at all. Only 89 properties would actually see an increase, and those are the 50,000 square foot plus properties, which is 0.27%. Have an increase. The largest pen, which is 472,996 square feet, would have a $30,000 fee plus the $100 land fee. And then here's your second bracket. That's the 18 bracket model that we mentioned. And the yellow, you can see those are the brackets we expanded out from the FY23 model to the proposed for next year. So I know that we've received a lot of appeals based on that 6,000 to 10,000 square foot model, which was that middle category, because it was such a broad group and there's so many residential properties included, and it was a $1,000 fee for those. As you can see, like we've broken that out into 1,000 square foot ranges as well, just to match the previous square footage categories. And you'll actually see on the increase, decrease what the decrease in the fees are. But we also broke out the 50,000 plus square foot category to 50,000, 100,000, 100,000 to 200,000, 2 to 3, 3 to 4, and 400,000 plus, with the highest fee going up to $30,000 on the largest properties. Yes.
Can you go back to that last slide?
Yes, sir.
So, looking at what, 7 through 10,
Yes.
they would see about a $25 decrease.
Yeah, so the 5,000 to 6,000 square foot properties, you got a $25 decrease. The 6,000 to 7,000 square foot, there's a $300 decrease because it was originally $1,000 for 6,000 to 10,000.
Right.
So that's where we see a lot of this change actually coming in, because we thought it was more equitable in that grouping, especially, I said, with so many residential properties being in those categories, to split those out a little further and make it equal ranges for anything below 10,000 square feet.
And so then on that bottom, the largest structures in the county, if you will, we're looking about affecting, 39?
Yep, 39 in the highest from 100,000 square foot plus.
Okay.
Yep, yeah, and originally, like I said, we had that 50,000 plus square foot bracket. I know there was a lot of comments on that with it being such a low fee, $10,000 on all those properties. So as we broke that out, we were able to kind of stagger that fee up in the $5,000 increments. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
All right, Commissioner Milton.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The largest piece of property you said will have a fee of about
It's $30,000 plus the $100 land fee.
Is that a commercial property?
It is, yes. Yeah, it's 472,000 square feet is what that largest property is.
Thank you.
And it's only just one of those.
There are 4 properties that are over
Four.
400,000 square feet, yeah. So
Go back
on
one
this,
slide. Yeah.
on this slide here, you'll see there's 20 properties that are 100 to 200,000.
Right.
10 that are 200 to 300, and 300 to 400 are 5, and then 400 plus, there's 4 properties.
All right, go back 2 slides for me.
Yes, sir.
Right, is that the one? Yep. No, that's the current model, go up 1. All right, good.
This is the 18 bracket here. Oh, sorry, you want the change table here,
Yeah,
the change rate?
yeah.
Yes.
Somewhere in here, you said that there was just one property that would,
Well, that was just an example. So the largest pin, so
Okay.
anything.
that's
it
just
was-
an example?
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay, now I'm good, I'm clear.
Yep.
Anyone else got a question? All right, go ahead.
Okay. And then, like I said, here's the change model for that. You would actually see only 39 increases. That's that higher end properties that we'd see the price go up. You have 2,614 properties that go down. Those are that 6,000 to 10,000 square foot property,
Right,
based on the current year to FY '24.
And this is what is in the second read on the ordinance, correct?
Yes, that's correct. Yep,
So we use the same number for the commercial as we do for residential?
Yes, we do. Yes. Yeah, the models were not broken in between residential and commercial properties. It was just a standard structure based on the square footage last year. Okay. This one is the 27 bracket, so you'll notice all the yellow highlighting. This is 500 square foot increments from the 1,000 to 10,000 square foot range. So that's where you see those increased categories. As you'll see as we go down that, we had to make some adjustments. There's quite a few in the increase-decrease column where the bracket would drop by $5, but we had to increase some by 10 to make that up as you're kind of staggering it. So these numbers, all the numbers that are in that peaches kind of color, we can change those on the models to some degree and see kind of what happens on the impact. But this was the best impact we could get based on where you put the numbers at. And I'll show you the change on those. 4,017 properties saw an increase of less than $25, while 12,595 actually would see a decrease of less than $25. And generally, that's that $5 to $10 range that we saw in that initial tab. Again, that largest properties, the 400,000 square foot plus, you're going to see a $30,000 fee on those. This is the cost per square foot modeling, and this is just to show you how the calculation is derived on that. Like again, the budget's $13.5 million, $3.208 million is land fees. And then for the billable square footage, when you look at that, because we do have those discounted properties, they account for 2.5 million square feet. So we took that as a 50% discount on that square footage. So it's 1.2 million plus the non-discounted properties is 106 million square feet. And when you work that out, it's the 10.29 million is the square foot collection needed divided by that square footage. It comes out to that 0.0957 cents per square foot. And using that model, you'll see the impact here. We actually see 22,126 properties as a whole would go up if we were to use that model versus our current model. 41% of those are less than $25, while 28% would be between that $25 to $50 range. Again, this doesn't include that $100 square foot fee that we'd have to add on in addition to their square footage fees.
For land, you mean?
Do I know?
The $100 land?
The $100 land fee, yes. Yep.
You
And
said
we,
it doesn't include?
it's not included.
it's not included in the dollar amounts because the square footage is only at that 0.0957 rate, and then it's in addition to that land fee. And that's the $3.208 million additional. The highest property would have a $45,274 bill versus the $10,000 this year, or the $30,000 in our other models that we just showed. And then we believe this would increase our appeals because it's based on every single square footage. So it gives everyone a reason, like if you can get it even down 15, 20 square feet, you're gonna reduce some. It's only 10 cents per square foot, a little less than 10 cents. But it's gonna incentivize people, I think, to appeal a little more heavily on that when you do it instead of doing the bracket model. Okay, and then this is the bracket models while trying to use that average square footage fee of 9.5 cents per square feet. We had the 500 square increments from the bottom all the way to the top. It resulted in just over 1,000 brackets to get to 500,000 square feet. We wanted to leave some room in case there are properties that are added in the future. They'll already be included in that billing table, so we wouldn't have to make an amendment there. if that was to happen. 84% of those brackets would be empty. There's 842 that would have no properties inside of those brackets. 68% of the pins would see an increase if we were to use the model this way with that 0.0957 per square foot. With the largest property on this one, it's $45,265,000, or $265.72 would be their highest, their bill. Any questions on that model?
What is number 5? Is that 1,000 brackets? Or
That, it's 1,000 brackets, yes.
15 brackets?
It's 1,000 brackets total. I couldn't include that on the spreadsheet because it's so many pages. That's why I just concluded that fee change table. There is a PowerPoint, inside the PowerPoint, I do have a document, a PDF of all the brackets and what their assigned rates are.
So can you make copies of that and get it to everybody?
Yes, sir.
All right, Mr. Manager? Get copies of what he said he couldn't include.
Yeah, it's 1,000
Yeah.
brackets long, so it's just in that PDF there. I'll make sure we get that
We can
to
get
you.
that to you, but, you know, what we tried to get at here, and what we heard, we had some commissioners want the 500 square foot bracket, so we got that. And then also, it gives you, no matter where you are, you should be able to take your square footage and multiply it times 9 cents, 9.57, and get your fee. So it treats everybody the same across the board, and it seems to be fair. But there again, just like Ms. Cantrell was saying, that, you know, it may increase our appeals. It, you know,
I think it would decrease your appeals, because if you're, in some of these brackets, you're going from 10,000 square feet to 25,000 square, whatever, these huge jumps. Well, a guy that's got 11,000, he's gonna appeal the heck out of it, because now he's paying at the $25,000 level. If you go with the 500 square foot model, that's easy to figure out. It's fair to everybody. Everybody understands if you got a bigger structure, you're gonna pay more. But I got people that've been coming to me all year saying, you know, why does the big guy get such a huge break and I'm paying full boat on my 2,000 or 3,000 square foot house?
Right.
So I think you got computers, this is not rocket scientists. You get your square footage, you go in that bracket, every bracket should equally jump. The other thing I see in here is you got, like in the 27 brackets, you're having 500 square foot jumps and you're going, I've got 70-foot jump, in dollars for the next bracket, $5 increase, $95 increase, $15 increase, $115, $10, $140, $25, $100, $50. You're all over the map with these increases. So this is so complicated, and it doesn't have to be that complicated. It should be fair to all the citizens. Anybody with an 8th grade education should be able to figure out what their square footage is from their tax assessment, and then multiply it by whatever that number comes out to be. Maybe it's 9 cents, maybe it's 11 cents, whatever it is. But people want to be treated fairly. That's the message I got, loud and clear. So, and these brackets, you can't jump all over the place with the brackets. If a bracket jump is $50, then it's a $50 jump. If it's a $10, it's a $10 jump. And where you land is where you land. I think, I don't know why it's got to be so complicated. I mean, I've got an advanced mathematical degree, and I can understand everything you got here, but it's too complicated, okay? I didn't have any problem with differentials in calculus when I was in college. I can understand the math. This is too complicated for the citizens of the unincorporated area and for me. I mean, it's just too complicated. It doesn't make sense. Your brackets are, the dollar figures jump all over the place, and you need a 500 square foot jump should equal a dollar amount. And wherever you land, that's where you land. If you're in the, 472,000 square foot, well, you're gonna pay $50,000 for fire insurance. If you got 1,000 square foot, that's what you're gonna pay, and everybody's gonna know that they're being treated fairly, that some people aren't getting a higher and some people aren't getting a break. The people that are paying one amount and they see some guy that owns a multi-million-dollar property and he's getting a huge discount, you know, he's paying 5 cents a square foot, and where this guy's paying, you know, 15 cents a square foot. So the 1,000 brackets, however many it takes, and yeah, there's gonna be a lot of empty ones. So be it. It's just a PDF on a computer. Computer can go through that very quickly. You know, plug in the properties, back out what the price per square foot is, and then everybody knows where they stand. And that's what I would advocate, that we go forward doing, that we have a very simple, easy to understand system that's fair to all, the little guy, the middle guy, and the big landowner, the big building owner.
Commissioner, make sure your mic's on.
Thank you. My question is, what Commissioner Farrell is saying, is that what we're actually doing, but you're making it look crazy?
No, the only model that would be the same dollar amount per square footage would be this,
I mean.
this cost per square foot model. That when you start bracketizing it, that's whenever you have to kind of pull away. So on that, to get to that on the bracket models, like for instance, on this number 6 bracket, you have that total square foot collection dollar amount field that's on that kind of the third end from the right, divided by the total square footage in that category. And that's what gets you that 0.0957 cents per square foot.
But it's gonna be the 0.957 times whatever the square footage is, right?
Whenever you start doing the brackets, you can do that by an average for the bracket, so that's what the actual average is. The only model that you can use, you could not use a bracket model and have 0.0957 times each property. I don't know if that.
But you can figure out what that number is, and you can do it. It is possible. It is mathematically possible, and not that hard to do.
Yeah, but that, and I think that comes back to that model 4 is the 0.0957 times each individual square footage, and that's where we
And I think
would come to.
I think that's what Commissioner Farrell's trying to get at. And we just need to be able to put an ordinance, and if it's consensus of this board that we're gonna do 500 square foot brackets at.
Each bracket needs to be the same amount.
Correct.
When you go from 1,000 to 1,500, that should be a known dollar amount.
Correct.
When you go to 1,500 to 2,000, it should be the exact same amount. When you go from 30,000 to 30,500, you should have the exact additional amount for each bracket. It should be the same. You could use the average, you know, instead of 0 or 500 square foot, you can do 250 or whatever. You know, and that way everybody feels like, well, okay, so who's gonna appeal that they're in a 500 bracket if it's averaged to the middle? You know, if you're below, it's not that much money, and I don't think you'll get that much pushback from it. I think most of the pain was felt already this year when everybody went to their assessor and said, hey, time out. You got me down for all this square footage, and I don't have it. You know, it was there, it's not there, this, whatever. And they had to do a lot of figuring, but that's healthy. That means that the assessor is getting a true picture of each property. So I think it's very doable, it's very simple. We just need to crunch the numbers, put out each bracket, you know, is this amount of money, and there you go.
That is keeping this simple.
Keep it simple, make it understandable for somebody that doesn't want to spend hours pouring through here figuring out, I'm getting a deal, my neighbor's paying this much, and I got 2 more square feet than he does, and he's paying that much, and, you know, all these different things. And I've heard enough of it for over a year. So I'd like to see a fair, simple system implemented by this county if we're gonna do this fee, to make it, if you wanted 500 square foot increments, and each increment is the same, and if it's 1,000 or 2,000 or 3,000 different things, well, that's where it is. And each year, it's gonna change a little bit. And you may have to adjust the bracket, but each bracket's gonna be changed exactly the same, so that if we're gonna use a square footage model, then it's gonna be fair to all concerned. And that's my goal, to see something from staff. But I'm looking at your biggest bracket with 27 brackets, and these brackets are all over the place. I just named them off, and that was just back of the envelope with a simple ABC calculator. I didn't even use the calculator, I could do that in my head.
All right, Commissioner Whiteley?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So now, I know at one point there was a discussion that we're still capping commercial rates. With this square footage model, though, we aren't. Is
With,
that a
with the
correct
bracket
assumption?
model, there's obviously a cap in there for whenever you get to that 400,000 plus. But in this, if you were to look at the Model 4, there's no cap there. It's just based on your square footage.
Yeah.
And so that's why
what
they
I
would be at
recommend, no
45,274.
caps, because the folks in the middle, they're like, well, why does my neighbor that owns, 777 apartments get to, get 5 cents a square foot, and I'm paying 10 cents a square foot? So that's,
Well, looking at these, it looks like the complication comes in when we put in brackets. That's where the complication's coming in. If we have just a simple square feet,
And that's what he's
piece, then, that's pretty straight up. But I also understand what the manager is trying to convey to us is that if we go to this square feet only model, then everybody's gonna wanna, a review, which is gonna put a lot of stress on staff. Go ahead, Mike.
And we can make it, Commissioner Farrell, you hit it on the head, we can make it simple. For staff, we can put in the ordinance that we're gonna do 10 cents a square foot, period. And whatever the tax assessor has on your property record card, that's what we charge. And we can do it like that. The only issue is we're going on what the tax assessor has.
Right.
So it's not staff, it's what, so it may be more work, the tax assessor may get more, the assessor office may
They
get more
they got
people.
that now.
and if it creates a fairer product for all concerned, then that's good. That's good for the tax assessor's office, it's good for the property owners, it's good for the, local government that uses that as a
A basis for
as
a
a
lot of
basis for our
things.
millage.
We can do that.
So, yeah, with that, I understand that, at this time now, I mean, the tax assessors had their work cut out. I'm sure some of you have gotten some of the same calls I've gotten. Like, I don't have that
Yes.
shed anymore, or I don't have this on the property. So I think it's not a bad idea that we're going in and kind
healthy.
of weeding out, some of the challenges that we've had. And yeah, it's painful, but growing pains is the phrase. Now, I want to just say that we complicated this on the front end when we thought hindsight is 20/20. So I stood in support with my colleagues in saying, hey, let's try this, the model that we use, and we've seen that we do need to adjust it. I personally agree that the per square foot model keeps it simple. It's gonna be painful. My only concern is, will it create a need for additional staff elsewhere that we need to account for in the budget before we pass it?
That is unknown at this point. I'll get with the tax assessor's office and work with them, and if we need some additional temporary help, we'll provide for that.
But it'll be healthy, it'll be, everybody wants accuracy. I mean, I think all parties concerned want accurate data.
Now, just one thing now, when we looking at these numbers and these increases, now don't get cold feet afterwards, because we're gonna have to stand 10 toes down on this, and stand. I think this is the most equitable and fair way to apply this across the board. But you see, we've got about 8,000 people who are gonna see, between a $50 to $100 change in their bill.
Yep, and 68% total of the properties. We have 35,000 properties, so 68% of those are gonna see.
Yeah, I'm just
An
talking about
increase.
that
Yeah,
that
that
50
big
to
grant, yeah,
$100
yeah,
one.
absolutely.
I think the $25, is just maybe no Chick-fil-A a couple of days, but,
And the most headache that we had is because of what the tax assessor said the square footage was. And so that means the appeal's gonna go down the street rather than coming up the street.
Right.
Because if they said I got 5,000 square feet and I know it's only 4,500 square feet, then I'm going down there to appeal my square footage.
Right.
See, and I think that's where the problem will come in, but I agree if we
But that's a
simplify.
healthy problem to
Yeah,
to
if we
straighten out the
simplify it and
books.
take that cap off top of that,
We-
because
we
I
just-
think the cap created a problem too.
Yes, it did.
And now, let me remind us too, all right? Let me remind us now. We adopted what we wanted. appear and not what the staff recommended in the first place, all right? So we got those whippings, and I think we all learned from that whipping, all right? We don't plan on getting that whipping again, I hope not. Yes, ma'am.
I also just wanted to point out that we are keeping the amount billed flat, and the additional 1.26 million is coming from the increased property digest and then the SSD.
Right,
So, yeah.
okay.
Okay, so maybe 3,000 calls rather than.
Well, we've got.
Well, these models are based on that 13.5 million. If we were to go to the 14.8, it would be even higher.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if we were to actually incorporate the full budget that's been requested by CS, it would go even higher than where it is right now.
They have considered that.
And we don't want to think about what it would be if it were to go up to the 18 million.
Yes.
Yeah,
Or the
they-
21.
And
They said yesterday.
And just for some
16.6
context
million.
on this
They
as
need.
well, we're at 88% of dollar amount's been paid
Right.
as of today we've sent out 150 violation notices so far. About 50 of those have paid. The first court cases should go through on June 26th and 27th to see how that's gonna go.
So we're at
with the quarter score.
88%?
We're at 88% of dollar amount.
Right, dollar
It's
amount.
82% of accounts have paid, so around 6,000 have not paid, mostly residential. But as we've seen the violations with that first initial 150, that violation going out, I know that's not a lot compared to the 6,000, but when we saw that, 50 have paid at this point, and those are our 10,000, or it's $1,000 plus properties. Most of those are $3,000 to $10,000 bills that have been paid. So, like I said, dollar amount total that's been collected so far is much higher than I think most of us probably anticipated in the first year, based on our current bracket model.
And we can give staff some kudos because they have been able to collect more than what's been collected in the past. All right? That's one
Yeah,
of the things
we're
that we have to
short.
give them credit for. Because we have collected more now. There are still, and I'm gonna say again, I'm one of the ones who, I study this stuff at night and everything else, because I'm one of the ones who have to catch up because I didn't know anything about any of this, all right? And so we have to spend time, and that's why I said, if you could give them a hard copy, I know that you couldn't put them all
Yep.
on the slide, but if, some people are visual.
Yep, absolutely.
Right, and so they have to see. But I do agree that if we, whatever, and Mr. Manager, we'll have to rewrite the ordinance too, right?
We'll have to amend.
The ordinance.
The ordinance, and it's up for second reading, so the only change will be, we're going to the square foot model.
Right, but we
So-
do have to change.
And that'll be at the next meeting on the 23rd.
Right, okay, so I just want to make sure we know that's clear, that we have to make this change, and so that if we're using a dime, if we're using a nickel, if we're using 9 cents, or whatever we decide we're gonna do, we put it in the ordinance, right?
Yes, sir, and we'll send, you should get a copy of that by close of business on Friday. So we'll send out an advance copy of what that's gonna look like.
And please, please, commissioners, do this. Please, 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 commissioners, do this. If, when you get the information, if you have any questions, if you have a hiccup, please call the manager, all right? So that he can assemble the staff he needs to assemble to get you the correct answer, all right? We are not supposed to call staff to get information. We're supposed to call the manager. Let the manager call in the staff to get that done. And then that way we follow and everybody will get, and that's one of the things I've asked the manager and staff to do is if Commissioner Whiteley sends in a question, all right, when you get ready to send out the answer, send it to everybody. See, so they'll know that this was Commissioner Whiteley's question. Here's the answer to his question so that we don't get to time when we need to adopt something and somebody say, well, I didn't know that, all right, or I didn't have any knowledge. We're trying to get, and that's my reason for saying, let's have the workshops with the experts and stuff so that all of us will get the same information and then we can make an intelligent decision. We understand exactly what we're doing and how we're trying to do it, rather than get it in a vacuum. So please, the manager's office is open to you to get those things, and he has staff that he have to bring it in, because I tell you, I was teasing them the other day. They were meeting in the yellow room. That's the yellow room?
Gold.
The what?
Gold.
The gold room. And I walked by and I said, how y'all doing? They said, we doing fine. How you doing? I said, oh, I'm doing good. As soon as y'all find me this $2 billion I need. But you know how I know there ain't no $2 billion around here to be found. But I wanted to put them in a happy mood because they be crunching these things all the time, okay? And so when we give them, I call it the KISS principle. Keep it short and simple. And I think that's what we're asking for, to keep it short and simple. When staff have that to work with and they give it to us, all right, please take into consideration that they have sat down and gone through all of the crooks and the creeds, all right? They've tried to fill in every gap so that we don't have the kind of situation we have now. Because we might as well admit it, it's a mess, but we're gonna clean it up. We can clean it up, we're gonna clean it up, and we're gonna keep it short and simple so that everybody can understand it and everybody will know where they are, all right? Anything else you need to go into?
It was just the additional, the.
Go ahead.
.0957 square foot brackets with 18 and 27. I know if we were looking at going to that cost per square footage, I'd hate to take too much of your time with that.
Okay, that's it?
Yep. And then
All right.
the last slide of the page is just that breakdown for the pros and cons for what you'll see
All
with
right.
each model.
I just ask commissioners, you have this in your packet, all right? Please read that, and then we're gonna make sure you get hard copies of the big sheets.
Can I say something, Mr. Chairman?
Sure.
I just want to thank you for this. You know, I know you put a lot of effort into it, and it may have been complicated to some of us, and some of us it may not have been, but nonetheless, we appreciate y'all efforts, because I know this is a hot mess, and we have, we added some of the heat, so thank you all.
Yeah, listen, we just want the staff, the manager and staff to know that we appreciate all your dedication and hard work, all right? To make sure we get all these things done. Anything else now, Mr. Manager?
No, sir, I think you want to go into executive session.
Yeah, there's a need for us to go into executive session, so may I have a motion to do so?
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
Personnel, litigation, land acquisition, and I also want to remind the board, our second public hearing is at 6 o'clock this afternoon.
Okay, all right. Got the motion, got the second, please vote yes. You need to be here back at 6 o'clock this evening. Waiting on y'all to vote.